So Wittyngham, very good friend of mine, friend of yours, friend of Crowder's. He is an MLS commentator nationally on Apple TV, and he's fantastic at it. He's been a broadcaster for Inter Miami, I think, since day one, if I recall. And Wittyngham knows more about soccer, and Solana considers himself a bit of a soccer fan, but Wittyngham knows more about soccer than anyone in the room. Funny thing is, last time Witty was on with us, he was picking games at the Hard Rock Casino. and risking his dignity. And now he is like
sing a Christmas carol for you.
Yeah, now he's like Mike Tirico. Listen, things change. So Chris Wittyngham. So explain to us, can you sum this up in less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds, which is how long it took Josh Appel to answer the first question that I gave him yesterday? That was staggering, wasn't it?
He texted me last night, like, sorry about how long my question was. I said, I didn't know you still finished. I thought you were still talking.
He's still going.
His answer was 17 minutes long.
He's still banging on about how Matthew Tkachuk shouldn't have gotten a game misconduct.
I shared with Wittyngham and Appel on our text thread just how long Appel's first answer was. And now it's in his head, and he's going to join us tomorrow at FLA Live Arena. And he is
going to be rattled.
Yeah, and he's going to give like 3-word answers. And now he's going to become a terrible guest because it's just in his head. But can you answer, Wittyngham, in less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds? What does Lionel Messi coming to Inter Miami mean for MLS and for Inter Miami CF?
I think the best way to talk about this is using David Beckham actually as a frame of reference. I saw a couple weeks ago, as these rumors are really starting to heat up, you compare the before and after when David Beckham arrived in 2007. Back then, there were only 13 teams in MLS. There are now 29. There was only one soccer-specific stadium in the U.S. There are now 22. At the time, the national TV deal for ESPN with MLS was $8 million a year. Now the national TV deal is $250 million a year between MLS and Apple. So there's been an enormous growth. But the thing is that what MLS needed at that time was a ton of infrastructure, right? Needed stadiums, needed more teams, needed the league to grow. And now the question is, what is that force multiplier of Lionel Messi? We should say this athlete, this one person, is orders of magnitude bigger than any American sports star in any sport. Tom Brady, LeBron James, whatever name you want to throw out there, other than maybe Michael Jordan, this athlete, this person is bigger than any person that has ever played sports in the United States of America. And so the fact that Inter Miami have him, the league have him, they need to use this player as a force multiplier for what this sport can be in this country. Because remember, we have a home World Cup in 3 years' time. We have a home Copa America next year, which Lionel Messi will be playing in. This is a huge opportunity now for the sport to take another big step forward, for the league to take a step forward and say, now we're going to be one of the biggest and best leagues in the world. That requires a lot of financial investment. That requires a lot of money to bring better players to the league, and Messi can be the start of something. This seems like sort of the end point of what David Beckham began 15 years ago, but this can be also the start of something, which is this sport becoming even bigger in this country.
We had a conversation. So LeBron James coming to the Miami Heat. I was trying to get the answer of who was a bigger arrival in South Florida for sports. And the argument I was making for LeBron is he hadn't accomplished what he wanted to accomplish yet. He came here specifically to win a title, and he was in his prime. Messi, I don't know how old he is, 35, I think?
Yeah, 35.
And he's accomplished everything, including a World Cup.
He's also been playing since he was 17 years old. So he's been playing professional soccer for 18 years.
Which is the bigger athletic arrival in Miami, LeBron or Messi?
I can understand sort of both sides of that argument. LeBron James obviously coming in the peak of his career, as you said, not having achieved anything. Frankly, arriving at a team in Miami that sort of has a greater cultural significance at this moment in time into an American sports landscape that at this moment in time values the NBA more than it values MLS. I just think LeBron James, while obviously having an enormous impact on the league and has been a huge star, an enormous impact on the Miami Heat, whose franchise valuation went up massively, I just think that Lionel Messi has these reverberations, these impacts that go far beyond, are you going to win your next game? Are you now the favorite to win MLS Cup, which I don't even think the gambling odds have changed that much yet. In some ways, it's kind of odd. The on-field, the on-pitch standpoint has not even grown that significantly yet. We haven't really thought about this yet in terms of, wait, this player's going to come in, score a bunch of goals, assist a bunch of goals, and Inter Miami are going to win a bunch of games. That's sort of been like the last thing that we've thought about or talked about. Miami are currently bottom of the Eastern Conference in the standings. I just think it's a bigger arrival because now there will be thousands more Inter Miami supporters than there were before. There will be thousands more supporters of MLS and viewers of MLS than there were before. And while LeBron James creates a certain amount of that impact, there's already such a big base of Miami Heat fans that I don't think it sort of has that sort of transformative effect. Lionel Messi can have a transformative effect on the sport in this country, particularly if he hits the ground running and starts playing well and becomes the Leo Messi traveling roadshow. If you look at right now, prices to get in the door at all of Inter Miami's away matches for the rest of the season, you're looking at $500, $600 to get in the door at New York, at Chicago Fire, at Atlanta United. It's remarkable. And we haven't even seen him play yet. Imagine if he actually turns up and is the player that won the World Cup 6 months ago, is the player that is arguably the greatest soccer player of all time and looks like that on the fields of MLS. It will only continue to grow in magnitude.
And in terms of level of play, I know, as Hoch mentioned, he's 35, just won the World Cup, though, and played a pretty massive part in Argentina getting to that level. And he's been playing since he was 17, as you mentioned. But in terms of level, right now, Messi steps onto a pitch right now. I mean, he's worlds ahead of the average MLS player, right? You could probably argue a certain number of guys who can still play in better leagues around the world. But just right now, it's not even close. He's the greatest soccer player to ever play in the MLS, without a doubt. But his quality, his level, is also worlds better than probably anybody who's ever suited up in the MLS, right?
Oh, massively, massively. Even currently, even still, when you have some players that are in the primes of their career that are still playing in MLS, he's coming off a season, and it's remarkable because his time at Paris Saint-Germain was viewed as a bit of a failure because they didn't win the Champions League, which is ultimately how they judge themselves. And his numbers went down, but even still, he played 41 games in all competitions last year and had 21 goals and 20 assists. He's getting at least a goal contribution per game at a very, very high level in France. I guess the question becomes, yes, obviously he is that much better than all of the opponents, but he's also that much better than all of his teammates. And I think that's the thing that's being debated right now in soccer circles. The people, I've seen this a lot, particularly from the South American point of view, is, well, he's stepping into a team that is not very good right now, that is missing a lot of players due to injury, that is bottom of the Eastern Conference. And so how much can one player create all that influence? I would suggest that, number one, he's not going to be the only arrival, I think, in this summer. There will be other players that will join him. Sergio Busquets is one who's been linked for a long time, and I imagine Inter Miami will try and be bringing other players in. But also, I do wonder how Messi will combine with players that are not of his level. Because the reality of MLS is you only have a certain amount of salary cap space. You only have a certain amount of designated player spots that you can use. You can't surround him with 10 players that are of his quality. So what does it look like when he plays with players that are not of his level? Because that's just a reality of MLS. And I'm genuinely fascinated to see what that looks like, because he always was a product of a team and obviously was a huge influence of it in it. But when he's playing for Barcelona in particular, he was surrounded by 10 players and knew exactly what they were doing in full coordination that are of the very highest level. I'm genuinely curious what it looks like when that's not the case, but you have to imagine a player of his talent can drive some of his teammates forward and provide them with opportunities that they will never have in their career playing with a player like Leo Messi.
What is an Inter Miami game with Messi going to feel like? Like, what is because you talked about, hey, the prices in Chicago and Atlanta and New York. What's it going to feel like? Where they're playing now at Drive Pink Stadium on Commercial Boulevard. What's it going to feel like when he's out there in, what do they call it, a kit? Inter Miami kit?
Yeah, in Inter Miami colors, yeah. So I think the point of comparison that we can use is actually, for me, of a lower level, which is Inter Miami last summer played Barcelona in a friendly. And they sold the place out, and it was, from minute one, this zoo. It was incredible to see all these people packed into that stadium, and every field club suite was filled and every seat was filled. And it was just this incredible scene. And Miami obviously got behind the team, but then Barcelona beat them 6-0. And so it's different when a lot of people are there to see the opponent, but it's remarkable to see that place sold out. You will see a supporters end of that stadium that is shoulder to shoulder of people with flares, with musical instruments singing, with tifos and flags, and all these people getting behind the team. I think there will be this aura every time that he touches the ball, every time that he here we go. Like the Messi magic can happen. And I think there will be plenty of moments for it, because the thing about Major League Soccer games is that they are largely wide open. There are opportunities, particularly in transition, for teams to hit. And if Leo Messi has the ball in space and can charge at defenses, you will see these moments where the entire crowd takes a collective gasp. And I am genuinely fascinated, because we saw the first year that Inter Miami were able to get people in 2021. It was in limited capacity because of COVID, but David Beckham was able to get all of his best friends to come. Tyson Fury was there on a Tuesday night against the Red Bulls. Tom Brady showed up and sat there in and amongst all the fans. The security protocols have changed and will probably have to change some more, but every big name celebrity will want to come to an Inter Miami game. I think it'll be that big three Miami Heat era kind of feel, where every night feels like it's an opportunity to be seen and be in and around something that feels big and magnetic. And I think every game will feel like that for the remainder of this season.
What great news for the Wendy's on Commercial Boulevard. I mean, talk about sitting
Man, that funky
mine.
Buddha that's a 5-minute drive away is going to be packed.
Mackerel. I mean, Ryan and KC are dancing all the way around Oakland Park. I mean, they can't believe their good fortune. How does it happen? So Chris Wittyngham is with us, MLS broadcaster for Apple TV. How does it happen? How does Lionel Messi go from winning a World Cup with the eyes of the world watching him to 6 months later playing on Commercial Boulevard for Inter Miami CF?
I don't like how you're being pejorative about Commercial Boulevard. It's a great stadium. It's a great place to go watch a game.
I used to go there when the Baltimore Orioles were playing spring training. It's
miles. I don't know if you've been since. It's miles different.
I've got fond feelings of that area. There's a terrific restaurant at the executive airport there.
Excellent.
What's that? What's it called? Jet Runway Cafe. You ever been there?
I think I have, actually, years ago.
Fantastic. Love the entire area. I mean, if you're looking for office space, I mean, myriad places are leasing right now on Commercial Boulevard.
To answer your question, though, how does this happen? Well, first off, Inter Miami have been working at this for a very long time. They sort of targeted this opportunity as the space to go after him, because you don't want to get him at 39. You want to get him now when he's still got good soccer left in him. And so I think they've been going after this for a very long time. And with Apple and with Adidas, I've been getting their ducks in a row. I don't know if you read the piece in The Athletic, but there's percentage cuts of Apple TV revenue, of Adidas revenue. And it's remarkable that that's even in play, that these giant companies have decided. And honestly, I think one of the interesting facts about this too is that the league has kind of gotten behind Inter Miami and said, we really want this to happen. This is great for all of us. All 28 teams stand to benefit from having Lionel Messi in their league. It's really unlike any other sports league where, because it's mature, like this wouldn't happen in the Premier League. If the league got behind Manchester City and dedicated league resources, say, hey, Man City, go sign them, Manchester United would be like, well, what's going on? What do you mean that one team gets the backing of the league? But I think everyone
imagine what Jim Frivola would say at AFC Bournemouth.
Right, exactly. He would be fuming.
Hell to pay, yeah.
He would be fuming at was it Dean Court, the Vitality Stadium that they call
Vitality
AFC
Stadium.
There you go. So anyway, so like the league has gotten behind this effort for several years, but a lot of things have to happen, right? The PSG situation has to go awry, which it did after they went out in the Champions League to Bayern Munich in fairly humiliating fashion as well. They've not been very good as a team. The Barcelona situation, which is ultimately where he wanted to be. As excited as we are that we're getting him, ultimately, we have to know that Barcelona is where Lionel Messi wanted to be. The problem is that FC Barcelona have no money, and they have had no money for several years now, and they could not promise that if they signed Lionel Messi, even for $1 million, let's say, that they wanted to sign him for, they could not promise him they could register his contract, because they have a backlog of contracts to register, and they would have to sell other players in order to guarantee that Lionel Messi could be in the side. And even then, That takes months of business in the transfer market. And Lionel Messi didn't want to sit around and wait that long, and so he's taking the Inter Miami opportunity. Obviously, the Saudi thing is a really big deal. It was reported that he was offered 250, 300 million euros a year to go sign with Saudi Arabia, but he decides instead, I want to go to Miami, which is a big deal because he has a business relationship with Saudi Arabia. And it's been reported by CBS that they are not happy that not only did he turn down Saudi Arabia, but one of the reasons cited was lifestyle. He wanted to go, him and his family wanted to go live in Miami, and they preferred to live in Miami when he is doing advertising for the Saudi Arabia Tourism Board. And yet he's publicly saying, I want to go live somewhere else. That is not being received well. So there's sort of this collision of factors that allow this to even be possible. And now we're looking at Inter Miami potentially signing Lionel Messi.
I know we don't know specifics yet, but as far as long-term, what does a contract with him look like? I know, possible ownership stake and all that down the line. You mentioned Apple TV or whatever, but like, is there a possibility that he comes here and only plays one season? Or is it more likely that he would play multiple years here? You mentioned Barcelona. I know there's a lot of, again, just chatter that he would like to return to Barcelona at some point. I don't know if that ship has sailed, but what's stopping him from playing here a year and then going back and kind of having his goodbye tour where it all really began for him? So what does it look like long term for Messi?
The reported figure out there is 2.5-year contract for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being longer. And honestly, when we're talking about these sorts of business guarantees, percentage of Apple, percentage of Adidas, percentage of an MLS team, from an ownership point of view, you kind of got to put your work into that. You've got to be here for a little while to earn all that stuff. Now, if you again go back to the David Beckham experience, he did go on loan twice to AC Milan and to Paris Saint-Germain. Did he go to Real while he was there? Either way, like he went to a couple European clubs to sort of get himself ready, particularly to try and make the World Cup squad for 2010 for the English national team, which he didn't end up making. But that is out there. I would be surprised if Lionel Messi is not serving out the full duration of his contract with Inter Miami. And like you said, maybe at 38, 39, goes to play for Barcelona or takes on an ambassador role, or heads to South America and plays for his boyhood club, Newell's Old Boys in Argentina. That's sort of been floated as a last step for him. But I think if he's signing up to commit to this project, that it's going to be for several seasons and he'll be here for a while to make sure that MLS, Inter Miami, and himself gets the full rewards of signing this deal.
What a day. Chris Wittyngham, you watch him on Apple TV. Where's your next MLS broadcast?
It's actually Inter Miami away at New England this Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. MLS season pass on Apple TV. I'll be on the call alongside Lori Lindsay, so I'll have Miami. I'll be at Messi-less Miami, but Miami all the same.
A little something to talk about other than Harvey Neville.
Wow, look at you. Look at you with some Inter Miami talking points.
How about that? Chris Wittyngham, what's the biggest story in Miami today? Messi, Heat, NBA final game tonight, Kaseya Center. Panthers, Stanley Cup final game tomorrow, FLA Live Arena. Luis Arraez hitting over 400. Marlins could be 7 games over 500. Dame Lillard, of course he would play for Miami if he wasn't playing for Portland. What's the biggest story?
It's Messi. It has to be Messi. This is the biggest athlete in the world, Hawk. This is the biggest athlete in the world. He has 3 times as many Instagram followers as LeBron James. He is orders of magnitude bigger than any American sports star in the consciousness of the globe. This is enormous.
Wow. Bigger signing, Messi or Matthew Tkachuk? Chris Wittyngham, ladies and gentlemen. You watch him on Apple TV.
What are we talking about
Apple TV this weekend with Inter Miami. Thanks, Witty.
No problem.
All right, there you go, Chris Wittyngham.